beyond the thunder and lightning, past the clouds, over the dark night. She reached up to the sky of stars and caught the red-hot light of the North Star.
Well, greetings and welcome back. As always, thank you all so much for joining me today. The Federal Aviation Administration announced it would implement a reduction in flights across the country due to the government shutdown. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy previously said he would reduce flight capacity by roughly 10%, affecting 3,500 to 4,000 flights daily. Yesterday, the FAA formalized a list of affected airports and clarified the reductions would begin at 4% and slowly ramp up to 10% by the 14th of November. The reductions began this morning with more than 700 flight cancellations. Airports seeing spikes in shutdown impacts as TSA screeners and air traffic controllers call out sick. Air traffic controllers have gone unpaid since the shutdown began on October 1st. Should the flying public be concerned about safety and security? Well, let's talk about this. Let's connect some dots and find out.
Connecting the Dots with Dr. Wilmer Leon, where the analysis of politics, culture, and history converge.
Welcome to the Connecting the Dots podcast with Dr. Wilmer Leon, and I am Wilmer Leon. With each program, my guests and I connect the dots between current events and the broader historic context in which they occur. We will be joined by a guest at the bottom of this hour. So let's take a look at a few of today's headlines. The Senate votes down a resolution to block President Trump from starting a war with Venezuela. The Senate yesterday rejected a resolution to stop the president from launching an attack on Venezuela without authorization from Congress. The resolution, led by Senators Tim Kaine, a Democrat from Virginia, and Rand Paul, Republican from Kentucky, and Adam Schiff, Democrat from California, failed to pass the chamber by a vote of 49 to 51. With just two Republicans, Paul and Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, Republican, supporting the bill. Ahead of the vote, the Trump administration officials, they were telling lawmakers that they currently didn't have plans to bomb Venezuela, part of a strategy to discourage Republicans from supporting the War Powers Resolution. This is according to CNN. During the briefings, Trump officials still didn't rule out potential future military action. The Libertarian Institute reports Russian forces make rapid gains in key Donbas city. Ukrainian forces are quickly losing territory and are nearly encircled in Pokrovsk. The nearly 2-year-long battle appears to be nearing its end. The Institute for the Study of War said on Tuesday that Russian forces had reached the central, northern, and northeastern regions of the city. Pokrovsk is considered pivotal to Ukrainian defenses in the Donbas region. And antiwar.com's Ted Snyder explained that the loss of Pokrovsk will have three major impacts on Ukraine. First is that it's a key logistical hub, the loss of which would threaten the Ukrainian armed forces' ability to supply their troops in the Donbas. The second is that beyond the city, Russian troops may find mostly undefended fields as they continue their march across the Donbass. The third is that the city is home to Ukraine's only coking coal mine. This is a problem. A deal to reopen government falters over Democrats' distrust of Trump. Democrat support for a potential deal to reopen the government has crumbled because of deep mistrust among Senate Democrats over whether President Trump will act in good faith to extend health insurance subsidies or stop firing federal workers. Senate Democrats rejected an emergency proposal yesterday to reopen the government that would have linked a stopgap funding bill as a continuing resolution to 3 full-year appropriations bills funding military construction, veteran affairs, the Department of Agriculture, and the legislative branch. So one of the things that I think relative to this, I think the Democrats need to be much more vocal about their distrust for the president, and they need to be very clear why they distrust him. They need to put together, I think, a very simple package of talking points to point out to the American people, we would love to do this, but we cannot, in good faith and in good conscience, accept the word of the president. You can't accept the word of Mike Johnson because Mike the Muppet will sit down, will do basically anything and everything that the president tells him to do. So I think it's also very simple to understand that if the Democrats were to fall for the banana in the tailpipe trick and go along with passing this continuing resolution on the hopes, or betting on the come, as they say, hoping that the president in this instance will be honorable, I think that would be nothing but an incredibly big mistake. And let me, there's something else that I want to hit on really quickly here. Before we get to my guest, there's been a lot of discussion, and will be a lot of discussion and analysis about the outcome of Tuesday's off-year elections. The first thing that is very important for people to understand is that this was not a midterm election; these were off-year elections. And talk about traditionally low turnout. You think midterm elections are low, off-year elections are even lower. But this past Tuesday, there was record turnout in Virginia. There was record turnout in New York City. There was record turnout in New Jersey. The level of turnout should be one data point to indicate how serious people's circumstances are and how many people are willing to turn to the polls as one tactic in many to express their discontent and concern about their circumstances. We know that Zohran Mamdani, a Muslim American, won the election to be the mayor of New York. And now what I'm hearing across mainstream media are attacks and excuses as to why the man is going to fail, and he hasn't even been sworn in as the mayor. I was listening to NPR this morning, and they were talking about the fact that Gabrielle Spanberger won the gubernatorial election in Virginia with a double-digit lead, and that Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey won that race, double-digit lead. Mamdani won in New York, I think, single-digit lead. And they were saying that the fact that Mamdani didn't win by nearly the same margins that Spanberger and Sherrill won means he should not really be the focus of the future of the party, that people should pay a lot more attention to the Spanberger-Sherrill race. And I thought that was utterly, utterly insane, because Spanberger ran as a Democrat against a Republican, Winsome Earl Sears. Mikey Sherrill ran as a Democrat against a Republican, Cicerelli, I think it was the man's name. Zohran Mamdani ran as a Democrat against Curtis Sliwa, the Republican candidate, and Andrew Cuomo, who was a Democrat, jumped parties to run as an independent to try to unseat the nominee of his own party. So Mamdani ran as a Democrat, for all intents and purposes, against the Democrat Party establishment, and still won. So NPR, you're going to tell me that somehow his victory is less significant than Spanberger in Virginia or Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey? The numbers just don't tell me that story. The numbers don't prove that story to be true. I think this is a desperate attempt to spin this entire thing to lessen the significance of what I see to be an incredibly significant victory, not only for Zohran Mamdani as an individual, but for working class people across this country. And he campaigned on very simple quality of life issues that the Democrats love to provide lip service to, but do not want to pass significant legislation to change. And let me give you one more example. I saw this on my MSN feed when I turned on my computer this morning. Here's the headline. Black leaders warn of Mamdani's New York proposals. This is according to the Columbus Ledger Inquirer. Never heard of the Columbus Ledger Inquirer. I don't know if that's Columbus, Ohio. I don't know if that's Columbus, Georgia. I don't know if that's Christopher Columbus. I never heard of it. But it's significant enough of a headline to make its way to a national news feed. Black leaders warn of Mamdani's New York proposals. Here's the story. The National Black Empowerment Action Fund has warned against New York City Democratic Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani and the Democratic Socialists of America, claiming their policies could harm African American communities. Founder Darius Jones argued that Democratic Socialists of America proposals threaten community safety and hinder progress for Black New Yorkers. That's the story right there. Two sentences, just that simple. So I read that, and then I go back to the headline. Black leaders warn of Mamdani's New York proposals. Well, who are these black leaders that they're talking about? The National Black Empowerment Action Fund. Never heard of it. Never heard of it. So I looked it up. What is the National Black Empowerment Action Fund? It's a Black-led advocacy organization focused on the economic, educational, and social uplift of Black communities across the country. Founded by, are you ready? Are you ready? Wait for it. Wait for it. Founded by AIPAC. Founded by AIPAC veteran Darius Jones. This group plans to invest in political campaigns and mobilize local officials. Founded by AIPAC veteran Darius Jones. Darius Jones sounds like a front man for AIPAC, an agent in our midst. So now, who's Darius Jones? Never heard of the guy. Don't know him from Buddha House Cat. And I do know Buddha House Cat. Anyway, Darius Jones served as the Deputy National Political Director for Michael Bloomberg's 2020 presidential campaign. Michael Bloomberg's 2020 presidential campaign. What did he do in that capacity? He helped develop strategies which enabled Bloomberg to realize a tenfold increase in his support within the African American community. There is a spy in our midst. Prior to the campaign, Darius spent a decade as what? The National African American Constituency Director for who? AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. Now, when you delve deeper into this website for the National Black Empowerment Action Fund, there's one more guy. His name is Richard St. Paul. Who is Richard St. Paul? One might ask. Great question. Glad you brought it up. He currently serves as a member of the National Council for what? The American Israel Public Affairs Committee, also known as AIPAC. Folks, there is deception afoot, and you need to be a very discerning reader. You need to be a very discerning listener. You need to pay very close attention to the misinformation and the disinformation that is being disseminated out here, because these folks are lying through their teeth. Final point before we go to my guest. I don't know if you all happen to see Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, on Morning Joe on Wednesday morning. And I must say, I thought I would never say this. Kudos to Joe Scarborough, because Greenblatt comes on and starts making all of these assertions about all of these, all this violence that is befalling on Jewish Americans all over the country, and all of these attacks that are being made on synagogues across the country. He's citing example after example after example, and every now and then he injects Mamdani's name, and after example after example. And finally, to his credit, Joe Scarborough says, wait a minute, Jonathan, wait a minute. wait a minute, stop it. He said, you're blurring a lot of lines here. He said, are you accusing Mayor-elect Mamdani as being responsible for the actions that you've just been describing? And Greenblatt says, oh, no, not me. Oh, no, I would never do that. I would never do that. I was never saying that. Blah, 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 blah. And Scarborough says, well, he says, Jonathan, you and I are very good friends. You and I, he says, you've been on, you're on this show regularly. And you and I agree on some things, we disagree on other things, but you and I are friends. He said, you've got to stop this. This isn't right. He said, have you sat down and talked with the man? And Greenblatt says, no, I haven't. He says, well, why don't you do that? And Greenblatt says, well, he has stated publicly that he refuses to meet with me. So I looked it up. And that's a lie. Jonathan Greenblatt is lying. Mamdani never said that. What he said was, I will not pursue a meeting with Jonathan Greenblatt because Jonathan Greenblatt does not represent the best interests of Jews in America. That's what he said. He said, I will not pursue. What he's saying is, Greenblatt, if you want to talk to me, you got to come to me. I'm not coming to you. Why? Because you're really, for all intents and purposes, a nobody. So, final point. So then Scarborough says, well, Jonathan, Mr. Mamdani has gone to a number of synagogues. He's met with a number of leaders, Jewish leaders. He's gone to a number of Jewish community centers. And Greenblatt, very dismissive. That's one arrogant SOB. I'm gonna tell you right there. But he goes like this. Let me tell you. Those are anti-Zionist Jews. That's what he said. As they should be. Because Zionism is a white supremacist, racist, genocide-backing political ideology. It is not a religious theology. It is a political ideology that covers itself, wraps itself in Judaism, trying to pass itself off as being related to Judaism. It is not. In fact, I believe if you look at the history of the founders of Zionism, what you will find is they were atheists. Enough of that. Let us move on. The Senate yesterday rejected a resolution to stop President Trump from launching an attack on Venezuela without authorization from Congress. Ahead of the vote, the Trump administration officials were telling lawmakers that they currently don't have plans to bomb Venezuela, part of a strategy to discourage Republicans from supporting the War Powers Resolution. How serious is this? What should we make of this? And where could this take us? Let's turn to my guest. He's a leader of the Organization for the Victory of the People based in Guyana. He is an executive member of the Caribbean chapter of the Network for the Defense of Humanity and the Caribbean Pan-African Network. And he is a beautiful, beautiful human being. Brother Gerald Pereira, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you, brother. It's always a pleasure to be on this program with you.
Thank you, and I appreciate your patience.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I was just saying, it's what you said. All that you said is correct. What you said about Zionism is absolutely correct.
Well, thank you. I greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate that. So we've talked about the Trump administration indiscriminately and extrajudiciously blowing up boats in the Caribbean. I was told that somebody got into Trump's ear and told him that that drugs weren't coming through the Caribbean Sea, that if they're coming via water, they're coming through the Pacific. So then he started blowing up boats in the Pacific without cause, without any type of due process. Then he calls for the Gerald Ford aircraft carrier group to leave the Mediterranean and to anchor off the coast of Venezuela. What do you make of all of this? Your thoughts, Gerald Pereira?
Well, Trump is a very unpredictable character, and a number of commentators have pointed to this, that Trump says one thing, and then the next day or within 15 hours, something completely different is done. I think so far the U.S. has carried out 17. We've recorded 17 strikes, and they've destroyed 18 boats, and 69 people have been killed. And it just goes on. The fishermen from the certain countries like Grenada and Trinidad, and so they're not venturing out because they're afraid. But so far, no concrete evidence has been provided. We have not seen. I mean, they have the capabilities of intercepting these boats, capturing the people and the persons on those boats, and showing us the drugs. We know that this, as we pointed out, this is all about regime change.
Mm-hmm.
And he has authorized the CIA. He announced to the entire world he wants the CIA there to go into Venezuela. They're already on the ground. And the idea is to take out the leadership of the Bolivarian Revolution, to kill President Maduro, the Vice President Rodriguez, and top leaders of the party, as well as the military. So we don't believe Trump. Trump is, as we pointed out, Trump is a deceiver. He's a great deceiver. And they're pushing for a regime change. That is what they want to do. Also, what is interesting is he said that while he's talking about Venezuela, he's talking about going after Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
Now, somehow to people, this is baffling. Here you're building up the aircraft carrier. Gerald Ford is already in the region. You've already have, as President Maduro said, more than 14 weeks of threats. You have 15 battleships out there, over 2,600 missiles, 100 planes. You're building up in Puerto Rico. And you're going to use Trinidad as an aircraft carrier to launch. Activists in Trinidad have pointed out they've sent shots that the U.S. military is moving around in Trinidad and carrying out exercises with members of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. So it is clear that I think they're going to, I don't want this. None of us want this. But Venezuela is prepared for it, of course, that they are going to attack Venezuela. And they're going to do so from, everybody's paying attention to Trinidad. But what is interesting is that Guyana is quietly off the radar.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, I was on the road and I I was driving a particular, and I saw the police outriders pushing all the cars, telling them to get to the side, so that this huge convoy, 9 vehicles, they're SUV vehicles from the U.S. Embassy diplomatic number plate, was riding through the city, because this is the head of the U.S. South Command is in Guyana. And so what they're up to, they're just talking about strengthening capacity, talking about capacity building, training our forces and all of that. But that is what they talk about, because years ago we have this ship rider agreement, and they always keep Operation Trade Winds, where they, over the years, they've carried out military exercises in the Caribbean, along with countries with colonial powers, countries that still have colonies in the Caribbean, countries such as France and the Netherlands, because we have countries like Curacao and Aruba, Bonaire, St. Just. These are all colonies of the Netherlands. And then you have Martinique and Guadeloupe and Marie Galante and French Guiana that are colonies of France. So here we are. The French, for example, is here. The French said, well, we are going to help Guyana against Venezuela. The French that have colonies, the French that you had riots in Martinique and Guadeloupe, the people were rioting, the people want independence. But France ignores the demand for self-determination and those who want their freedom. But France is coming to Guyana to help Guyana to defend us and protect our freedom from Venezuela. I mean, it's my brother, it's somehow it's the theater of the absurd. When you listen to these people, and they are shameless, they have no shame. They talk to you. I mean, let me give you an example. I'll get back here. The hurricane just went through, Hurricane Melissa, and it tremendous destruction to Jamaica, Tahiti, and Cuba. But of all those countries, the only ones that were prepared for that disaster and came out was Cuba. But Jamaica really destroyed. And the King of England, who's the head of Jamaica, represented by the Governor General, he said, oh, we're really sorry, what happened in Jamaica is sad, but Britain pledged Britain will give £2.5 million for recovery. £2.5 million. These are the people that built their country on the trade in captured Africans, would not give an official apology for the enslavement of Africans, much less to address the issue of reparation. £2.5 million. That is how they see non-white. That is how they see Black African people. That is how they see us. And these hypocrites have the gall to tell us that they are going to defend our freedom. There for defense. So, getting back to it, Trump, we don't know what Trump says one thing and then does something else. So, Venezuela, of course, is on guard, and statements that came out. I listened to, I saw an interview with a correspondent from Al Jazeera in Colombia, speaking to some leaders of the National Liberation Army. That's one of the guerrilla groups that did not give up. They did not give up their arms. The FARC did. But the National Liberation Army is strong. They have an estimated 10,000 fighters, and they have grown. But they work with the president, President Petro and his government in Colombia, but they keep their arms. And they were saying that, because Trump was saying that one of the boats that was blown up belonged to the National Liberation Army. And they said no. They said the same thing. Intercept these boats and show us evidence of the drugs that you have seized. And they made it clear that they have nothing to do with drugs. We know this. This is what they do. So any attack on Venezuela is going to you're going to have a regional conflict. because Trump is talking. It's not just Venezuela he's going after. He's going after President Petro of Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing is going to escalate. It's going to the National Liberation Army in the guerrilla group in Colombia. They're going to fight on side. They're going on the side. They will fight in defense of the Bolivarian Revolution. They've made that clear. And there are other groups. There are other groups that are going to join the fight. I don't know if you can recall many years ago when the Sandinistas in the final stages were on marching to get rid of Somoza. There was a brigade that was established by a number of Latin American leftists called the Bolivar Brigade.
Mm-hmm.
And they were volunteers who went to fight alongside the Sandinistas. So I think what you're going to see something like that, because many people are saying this is enough. We cannot, this cannot go on.
Mm-hmm.
This is downright. It's naked bullyism. This is global arrogance. So when Ayatollah Khamenei used the term many moons ago during the early stages of the Islamic Revolution in Iran, he referred to the United States as a great Satan.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed that many Pan-African groups, revolutionary Pan-African groups that are secular, not necessarily religious, but the term great Satan, they're using it, applying it to the United States empire.
I was I was in Iran, and I had a chance to meet with the former Iranian president. Oh shoot! Now I just forgot the man's name. Oh my gosh! It'll come to you in a second. Anyway, and we had a 2-hour meeting, and he made reference to the great Satan.
Yeah.
And what I realized in listening to him is that so many people in the West interpret that as just political rhetoric. But when I listened to him, what I came to realize is that wasn't political rhetoric. That was political analysis based upon the perspective of a devout Muslim. Because he was comparing, he said things such as, well, you realize that Satan will introduce himself into a situation. He will where people are equal or people are friends, and then he will find the weak link. He will take advantage of the weak link. He went through this whole analysis about how Satan corrupts.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there and I said, oh my God, that's not rhetoric. That's analysis from a Muslim.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Well, there are two great Islamic, there's a number of them, but there's a book written by two outstanding Iranian scholars, theologians. Both were assassinated. They were in the headquarters of their party. This is many years ago. And there was a bomb attack, and many people were killed, including them. And the group that was responsible for that is a group that has its headquarters in, they operate in the United States, in Germany, and so they were behind the bombing. It's called the People's Mujahideen Organization. Mm-hmm. And they've received the support of Israel and others. But they carried out that bombing. But the two men that died was Ayatollah, there was Beheshti and Bohonar. And in their philosophy of Islam, they pointed out that the fundamental contradiction in this world is between the forces of truth and the force of falsehood. The party of God, the Hezbollah, the party of God, and the party of Shaitan, the devil. So they were of course, looking at, of course, politics. It's politics, it's sociology, the economics, but they were looking at it from a theological and metaphysical perspective. Because, you know, when they say the fundamental contradiction is between truth and falsehood, because God is the author of truth. In Islam, He's al-Haq, the truth. He's Adil, justice. And the universe is constructed on truth and justice. Ancient Egyptian or Kemetic civilization understood this. So we say today that what is called Judaism, what is called Christianity, and I'm talking not about Protestant Christianity and Roman, I'm talking about the teachings of Christ and Islam, are extensions of the monotheistic teachings that came out of Kemet. So this is a continuation. So in the Quran, it says, as that they pointed out, that God gave man, the human being, sovereignty over all life except human life. You know, dominion, sorry, right? Over the bird of the air, the fish of the sea, and all. Good. But each of us, we are self-determining and sovereign beings under the highest sovereignty of our Creator. So Satan or Shaitan was told to prostrate before Adam, and he refused. So he is the author of all forms of discrimination, racism, and domination. So he said that this man that you've created, that you've elevated up above me and those like me, I will come in front of him, I will come from the back and the side and whisper and turn him against you. And that is why they say in Islam, guide us on the straight path. Surat al-Muslim, guide us on the straight path, not the path of those who go astray and on your wrath. So, all forms of oppression, if you oppress, if you're an exploiter, if you're a racist, if you're a mass murderer, the genocide you're committing, regardless of what you call yourself, whether you call yourself a Christian, you can go to church and preach how much you want. You can go into the mosque and pray how many times a day. If you support falsehood and those systems that are rooted in falsehood, like Zionism, racism, white supremacy, imperialism, regardless of what you call yourself, you are in the party of Shaitan, and you're in you're in the party of falsehood. Yes. So the party of truth and justice, the party of God. And this is what is important, I pointed out before. You can be an atheist. You can be an atheist and be in the party of God. If you are fighting injustice, if you are fighting against oppression, if you are fighting for new world beyond, for new possibilities, if you are fighting for the liberation of people's needs and the elevation of human dignity over profit, you are in the party of God. Because it's no, my brother, it is, you can pray 5 times a day, you can go to the church, but if that faith does not go with the works and action, then it comes to zero. And that I always mention that young leader man who said to Jesus that he kept all the commandments. And Jesus had the power to know whether he was telling the truth or not. But Jesus never, at least there's no scriptural evidence of it, Jesus never contested. He said, go sell your wealth, get rid of your wealth and come and follow me. And the man disappeared because the man believed that living by the law, just living by the law and personal piety is good enough for salvation. No, it is not. Pick up your cross and come and follow me.
Mhm.
Come out into the world. Come and witness. Come and struggle against injustice to realize God's kingdom on earth. What's God's kingdom? Jesus was a socialist. Jesus was a socialist, and so was Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. This is the ethical and religious theological justification for all of those, including like Brother Mamdani, arguing for new possibilities beyond that what we're faced with: environmental destruction, war, and racism, endless wars.
It was President Ahmadinejad who
Ahmadinejad, yes,
who I had the honor of being part of a group that had a 2-hour discussion with him, and I apologize to him for just drawing a blank on his name. S, thank you very much for that super sticker. Key Mamdani ties anti-communism to Islamophobia. Interesting observation. It's interesting too, because Donald Trump called him a communist, and obviously either Donald Trump doesn't know the difference between communism and socialism, and or it's just another Red Scare tactic that he's trying to implement. And Brother Willie Hicks, thank you very much. Yeah, it was Ahmadinejad.
Well, Roosevelt, big business called Roosevelt the communist.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me two things. One, there's a story in the Latin Times, which I trust about as far as I can throw a boulder. Wanted to see if you had heard anything about this. Maduro reportedly open to leaving Venezuela in exchange for amnesty and comfortable exile. If there's enough pressure and if there's enough candy in the dish, a person close to Caracas said when describing the possibility. I don't know if you read that or heard that.
That's
story.
what they do. That's what they always do. I don't believe that.
Right.
This is nothing new. They said the same about Gaddafi.
So
and Gaddafi said, "Go where?" He said, "I born in Libya. I born here. I die here." So that is to sow doubt, make doubt. The loyalist forces start to question themselves. Well, should we fight if he's prepared to go? This is what they do. This is the typical CIA, and they get publications to run that nonsense.
You're in Guyana. You're so close to the ground. What is your sense of the mood in Venezuela? How are people afraid? Are people saying bring it on? What's your sense of the sentiment on the ground?
Well, from what we're picking up in Venezuela is, the Venezuelan revolution has mobilized more than 4 million people in the communal militias, and the army, the military is on full alert. They're strong. Their number, I think, 175,000, and Venezuela's armed with very modern, very technologically advanced weaponry. And what I am worried about is Trinidad and Guyana allowing themselves to be used, because as we pointed out, myself in the Organization for the Victory of the People, and a number of us, the United States has always backed Caracas on the territorial issue. So we have to draw a line between what the U.S. pushing for regime change in Venezuela and the territorial dispute issue between Guyana and Venezuela. This is on the back burner. This is secondary. This here is not the primary or principal contradiction. We have to close ranks, because if Guyana allows, if the government of Guyana allows the United States to use any part of this sovereign and independent territory of Guyana, at least on paper, to launch an attack on a sovereign nation state, then in what way, how can we in one breath speak about defending our sovereignty and independence and allowing the United States, who has no respect for the sovereignty and independence of any country in the so-called backyard, how can we allow them to go after Venezuela? So Venezuela, I've said openly, Venezuela has a legitimate right to defend itself. And if an attack comes from Trinidad and Guyana, then they have a right to rain missiles on Guyana and on Trinidad, because our neo-colonial regimes, our overseers, who call themselves presidents, they're not presidents, they're overseers, they're plantation overseers. That's what they are. They allowed the United States. Rubio comes into the country, bullies them, they talk to them, and they go along. But not one of them have the courage to tell them, no, we are not like Mia Motley said. The Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda said, no, our country will not be used for an attack on any country in the Caribbean. You know, but it's only so far 2 countries, really mainly 3. Jamaica, well, Jamaica has been, Jamaica have their own problems now. They don't need, but Guyana and Trinidad. But we're hearing more about Trinidad, and the Guyana thing is more quiet. So I do believe that if they do launch an attack from Trinidad, I think one will also be launched from Guyana. We have said this before, and we say it again. This country, our country, I'm a patriot. And I put my love for my country transcends parties and politics. Any political party that is in power that allows the US, especially Trump, to use this country as a ground to attack any country, whether it's Venezuela, Colombia, or what, when the tables do turn and those people are still alive, they will be put on trial for treason, because this is treason. They did not consult the people of this country. They quietly met with representatives of the empire, and we are uninformed. We know nothing of what is going on. So we have put them on notice, because, things happen. Dynamics shift. The tables do turn. And we, as an anti-imperialist force, we have said this, and we're not afraid to say it.
Final question for you, and again, you know the topography, you know the geography. Do you, if there is a conflict, and we all pray that there is not, do you expect this to be an artillery-based war of attrition, as in Ukraine? Or do you see this being more of a missile launch barrage, as in Iraq?
I think the last one, you will see that. But at the end of the day, in Guyana, Venezuela, this is not like Iraq. There's huge. You have the jungle, and I don't see how the U.S. will commit troops to that fight.
Okay.
And an attack on Venezuela is not going to be good for Guyana. It's going to be destructive, and it's going to affect Trinidad. And okay. even if they've managed, let's say they've successfully, if they do achieve regime change, that will not be the end. There's going to be a war of the fleet. So if they believe that they can just bomb Venezuela, go in and seize the oil, and put that puppet, who is not only a Zionist, but a downright racist, very anti-African. These were the people, and your viewers need to know this. My brother, have you ever been to Venezuela before?
I have not.
Good. I can't recall if I did mention to you. The first time, and Africans need to understand this. Black people need to understand this, especially in the United States. That's why all the Pan-African organizations on the motherland and in the region are supporting the Bolivarian Revolution. They're saying that the Bolivarian Revolution is part of the World African Revolution. Why? When I first went to Venezuela was in 1981. And one of the things I noticed on arriving at Simon Bolivar Airport was the invisibility of Black people.
Mm-hmm.
I saw not one. The only time I saw a Black Venezuelan was entering into the washroom where they were cleaning, mopping the toilets and so. You came out and there was the odd one with a taxi. Good. I've been to Venezuela, transited Venezuela because connections and so. The last time I passed through Venezuela, the entire immigration, all African Venezuelans, 20, you can tell from their age, 23, 24, and the way they treat you with respect, they assist you in everything, all the cambios. The commander of the ground force, one of the large ground, is an African Venezuelan. Venezuela sent 3, the present ambassador to Guyana is not a white Venezuelan. And before him, his predecessors, you had 2 women, Africans. The Bolivarian Revolution moved Africans and indigenous people in Venezuela from the margins of the society to the center. So not just Venezuela now you're seeing. This struggle in Venezuela is both a class struggle and a race. You have the race issue. And that is why when Evo Morales became president of Bolivia, those white, the Castilians we call them, they wanted to break away secession to the rich mineral, the area that had a lot of minerals. And they were saying that they don't want any indigenous president. So why I mention this is because many of those who are opposing the Bolivarian Revolution are also, they are the white Venezuelans that had tremendous privilege and control of the wealth of Venezuela.
Okay.
So this factor needs to be, people need to understand it. And that is why you find that a lot of African Venezuelans are standing behind President Maduro and the Bolivarian Revolution.
I've got about 2 minutes, and Carol Asbaram, thank you for that super sticker, asks, will crazy Marco Rubio have Trump because he does not want to lose face, turn around and attack Cuba? I got about 2 minutes.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but I know that what they're doing, this, when you look at it, the Trump idea is if he succeeds in Venezuela, he will go after Cuba and then by extension, Nicaragua.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Brother Gerald Pereira, as always, man, thank you so much for your time. Phenomenal analysis as always. And thank you for listening to my rant and my diatribe. I appreciate it.
No. It's very informative. I just want to say this before you go.
Yes.
Podcasts, the work that you are doing, brother, you would not believe it, but it is programs like this that contribute to the consciousness raising and the political awareness of many of those who went out and voted for Mamdani.
Man, thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. How can people get in contact with you? How can people follow you?
It says you can go to our website. It's www.ovpguyana, one word.org.
ovpguyana.org.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, my brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes. Thanks a lot, brothers. God bless. Stay strong.
Thank you. Folks, thank you all so much for joining us today. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. Remember that this is where the analysis of history, politics, and culture converge. Talk without analysis is just chatter. We really need you to support the program, really need you to subscribe, to share the show. That last compliment coming from Brother Pereira means more than you know. All we're trying to do is have an impact, and we need you to help us have that impact. See y'all next week. See y'all on Monday. We'll let you know who the guest is going to be. Have a blessed remainder of your day and weekend. Peace. I'm out.
Connecting the Dots with Dr. Wilmer Leon, where the analysis of politics, culture, and history converge.